Have you ever thought about how Jesus views you, how he looks at you, and how he thinks about you among the billions of people that are existing on this earth? Just picture this. Picture a groom attempting or trying to take his bride, and imagine the kind of depth of love that that groom will have towards his bride. That is the kind of relationship that Jesus shares with his bride. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Step by Step with Jesus series. In my last video, I talked about the relationship that Jesus had with his birth parents. And in this particular video, we'll be looking at the journey of Jesus Christ when he was here on earth and how he related to his bride, and even go beyond that to the future to look at his plans for his bride in the future. So trust me when I say that this episode is very profound and it's going to be very detailed to the point that you'll be able to look at and experience again the love that Jesus Christ has for his bride. If you are new here, I encourage you to like, to share, and also to subscribe to this channel in case you have not done so. Have you ever thought about how Jesus views you, how he looks at you, and how he thinks about you among the billions of people that are existing on this earth? Just picture this. Picture a groom attempting or trying to take his bride, and imagine the kind of depth of love that that groom will have towards his bride. That is the kind of relationship that Jesus shares with his bride. A relationship that made him to leave the beautiful place called heaven, and he came down to earth just to be able to be with his bride, which is you and myself, and even the church as it were, to be able to bring them to himself and ensure that they have the best of life, which is the salvation offer that he has given to his bride. Just imagine that. The scenario is one of such that depicts the kind of sacrificial love, the kind of feeling that Jesus has for you and for myself and every other person who believes in him. Is a deep kind of love. Imagine that a groom attempts to take his bride, and imagine the kind of love that that groom has for his bride. Looking at the bride and taking that bride into his home and ensuring that that bride is well kept, that bride is able to attain the kind of life that she wants to attain. That is the kind of relationship that Jesus has with his bride. But I must let you know that it is actually even deeper than that. And that is what we'll be looking at on this video, where we talk about the relationship that Jesus Christ had with his bride. I will be going into this even in more detail to be able to help you to understand a bit better about the way that Jesus Christ perceives you and perceives me and every other person who believes in him. I would like to set the foundation of this discussion by starting with the scripture in Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 25, where the Bible told us that, "Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it." That scripture is the foundation of what we want to discuss at this time. And it sets the pace to help us to understand the depth of love that Jesus Christ had for his bride. In other words, we are looking at the sacrificial offering that Jesus Christ gave to his bride, which included his life. He gave himself for his bride. And this verse sets the tone for the kind of relationship that Jesus had with his bride, even from when he started his ministry till the time when he became crucified and resurrected, and even into the future, right? It sets that pace, and that's what we'll be looking at in depth. So the first lesson that we can pick from the relationship that Jesus had with his bride is that, number one, Jesus chose his bride by himself. He single-handedly picked his bride, he identified them, and he picked them. And we can see this from the scripture. In John chapter 15 and verse 16, the Bible said that you have not chosen me, and I have chosen you. In other words, it is not the bride of Jesus who chose him first. It was Jesus who chose his bride first, who identified who his bride was to be. In the case of the disciples, is another example that we can look at. When Jesus was about to pick his disciples, he was just going around and then he would just point and say, "Follow me and I will make you." So they were not the ones that picked him. In fact, they were minding their business. They were going on with their lives. But Jesus went to them and said, "Follow me. I chose you. I chose you. Just as he has chosen you, just as he has chosen me." So Jesus chose his own bride by himself. We did not choose him. But in his choosing of his bride, it's fundamental for us to know that in the mind of Christ, his purpose of choosing his bride, or his goal of choosing his bride, is also to ensure that he is able to work on that bride. As he's picking them at the state at which they are. He's not looking for a perfect bride. He's looking for a bride that is ready to be with him, a bride that is ready to follow him, irrespective of wherever they are in life. He was not looking at their attitude or character, as it were, but he was looking at something more profound than that. And after selecting them, his goal was to make them to become the kind of bride that he will be proud of, that he will be able to showcase to his Father and also to the entire world. The second thing that we can see in the relationship that Jesus had with his bride is that he sanctified his bride and he cleansed them. You know that there is a balance that says that some people believe that the grass is always greener on the other side. But with Jesus, he walks on his own grass. He labors over his own grass. Ephesians chapter 5 verse 26 and 27 tells us that he made her holy, cleansing her by the washing with water through the word. In other words, it means that Jesus gave time to ensure that his bride appears in the kind of image that he wants. He labors over his bride, ensuring that that bride can come out with perfection, ensuring that the kind of character and the lifestyle of that bride is such that befits the groom, is such that it shows the value of the groom. It carries the value of the groom and it depicts it in anything that the bride does. So the groom is not expecting that other people will labor over his own bride. It is Jesus who labored over his own bride by ensuring that his bride is cleansed and his bride is presentable and his bride is able to carry on his own values and also showcase his own standards to the world. Is that not great? I believe it is. That Jesus will be intentional about cultivating that depth of relationship with his bride. After choosing them from wherever level of life he met them, he walks upon them, he labors over them. And you would also remember when he was speaking with the disciples, he told them that, "Follow me and I will make you. I will make you." So the making process is what cleanses them and makes them to be able to stand before the world as the kind of bride that he can be proud of. So you must know that Jesus does not leave us where we are or where he met us. He's intentional about what we are becoming, He's intentional about our outlook to life. He's intentional about our character, the way we converse with other people, the way we interact with them, the way we live our lives. He's very intentional about it. And they are not things that he jokes with in any way. So for him, the goal is that his bride is able to effectively represent him. The third point is that for Jesus, it was important that he has a deep relationship with his bride. He deliberately cultivated those kind of relationship with his bride. One of such examples is what we can find in the story of the Mount of Transfiguration. In Matthew chapter 17, verse 1 and verse 2, there was a fantastic experience for Peter and two of the disciples. They had gone with Jesus to this mount, and something extraordinarily happened. And the reason is because Jesus was not afraid to share with them that moment of intimacy. He was not afraid to be vulnerable in their presence. He was not afraid to allow them to know him deeply. He invited them over and took them to that mount so that they can experience with him those things that he's also experiencing in life as his bride. Jesus is intentional about cultivating a deep relationship with his bride. And that includes speaking intimately with them, letting them know his plans, opening up to them, and sharing with them the mysteries of this world. No wonder the Bible said in Jeremiah chapter 33 and verse 3b that I will tell you remarkable secrets which you do not know about things to come. In other words, he's not just talking about random people. He doesn't go about sharing his relationship with random people. He goes about sharing it with people who have been identified with him, those who are called his bride, who he can rely on, and who also relies on him in return. So in other words, the kind of relationship that Jesus had with his bride was such that they shared intimacy. They shared moments of mystery, moments in which he's able to be vulnerable and they can also be vulnerable in return.